The moment a lead buys from you, they are immediately regretting their purchase, which is why it's so important that one of the most valuable leverage points you can put into your business is the speed at which you onboard a client. Imagine the moment you buy something, you are immediately hit with all of these communications getting you to get to the point of activation, aka onboarding, so that you can begin to fulfill and or receive the services that you just purchased. In this video today, we are going to talk about creating a banger onboarding experience that will quickly get people to the point of activation where they are most happy, which will then in turn have the largest correlation to the total LTV that they spend with your company. With that being said, what's up? My name is Kajana. Most people call me Cage, and I am the owner of Powered by Aloha. And we are a revenue operations firm, very fancy way of saying that we focus on revenue, making money, and delivery, keeping money. Our entire framework and our entire motto is there are bottlenecks stopping your business from scaling tomorrow. What we like to do is we come in, we identify the bottlenecks, we define them, we organize them, we customize them, we automate them, we roll them out, and now you are making more money or you are keeping more money based upon the constraint of your business, because every business is different. In this video, we're going to be talking about a system that focuses on the onboarding and delivery side of the business, aka keeping money, right? Keeping a profit margin high, keeping clients happy, increasing LTV, so on and so forth. So with that, let's jump into it. Like always, let's start with the facts as they pertain to this system. So if I look at this, the facts in this business, so this onboarding experience and Gantt chart that I'm about to explain in a moment came from a bookkeeping business that ran with 8 people. Basically, it was one CEO, one COO equivalent, one project manager, and then 4 implementers was basically how their entire model worked. Now, in this, the issue that they were running into is they felt that they felt that clients were taking too long. Clients were taking too long to deliver necessary docs and access. So because they're bookkeepers, right, they need access to technology, they need access to P&Ls, reports, so on and so forth. They felt that clients were taking too long to deliver, lol, that's funny, to deliver necessary docs and access to the team. Alternatively, they felt that every project was too custom when they were implementing. They found that when they were talking to one industry versus another industry versus another industry versus another industry, the materials that they needed in order to get docs and access were just too custom, and because of that, everyone was unique and nothing could be done. And let me tell you, if you're doing like sufficient volume in your business, like you're doing more than $1.2 million a year, things aren't as custom as you think. Most things can actually be fairly standardized and repetitive. You just have to put in the extra effort to identify what are the categorical overlaps that allow you to find where things are the same as opposed to things being different. Because if you can identify where things are the same, you can then go and find out what is the standardized process that something should be happening and or being received in a orderly fashion. And then if there are things outside of that, then you're able to add variations as opposed to everything being custom. Because if everything is custom, then nothing can be standardized, and if nothing can be standardized, then by definition nothing can be scaled, because nothing's repeatable and everything is brand new. And if everything is brand new, then you can't hire people who can make decisions on your behalf, because they have no fucking idea what decision to make, because everything is new and different and unique, which you can tell I get a little bit heated about because it's not a real thing, but it's very easy to get caught in that feedback loop. But I digress. Back to the example. So here we are. Every project was too custom when implementing by their team. So I'm like, okay, so these things all make sense to me when I came to them. So I'm like, okay, so it sounds like, you may be in this work takes too long category, and it sounds like you might be in unnecessary friction, but I'm not entirely sure yet. So let's kind of like attribute some numbers, some actual data to these very subjective terms of too long and too custom. Now, a very important thing to note is that when we are looking at something being a problem versus being a bottleneck, because something can be a problem and not be a bottleneck. But if something is a bottleneck, it is not a problem, it is the problem stopping you from moving forward. So one of the easiest ways to kind of figure out whether or not something is a problem worth solving, rather a bottleneck, a core problem, is allocating or attributing metrics. How much does it cost? How many in hours hours spent implementing versus in hours or days spent waiting, right? Micro time versus macro time. And then looking at how many dollars does it take you? How much mental capacity does it take you? All of these things begin to shape up like whether something is a problem that we should continue to let burn because solving that is not the biggest lever point, versus when you see something that is like, yo, that's a tremendous lever point that if we can solve that, you will be able to, again, scaling is the concept of increasing output or decreasing input without changing the other. Easy math. If it takes me 10 hours to make $100, scaling is both 10 hours to make $200, same input, different output, as much as it is making $100 for 5 hours, same output, different input, right? And that's the leverage point we're always looking for when we're looking to eliminate bottlenecks. But again, back to the example. So when we look at that, I said, okay, let's go and put some actual numbers around what is too long and what is too custom when we are looking at your model. So in case of too long, what the CEO, what she told me is that it was taking 21 days for someone to onboard. And I'm like, God damn, that is a long time. Like, we should probably solve that. And she said part of the reason is that when someone would onboard, one of her team members would then, they would contact that person twice a week, 2x per week. And each contact took up to 15 minutes. So in terms of hours, let's call that 0.25. 0.25 hours. So if we think about it, if they're contacting twice a week, so that's 0.25 times 2 is half an hour, times 3 weeks is 2x per week. Half an hour times 3 weeks is 1.5. 1.5 hours, not a big deal, right? For her, she paid her reps $60 an hour. So basically, it was costing her 60 times 1.5 is $90 per hour. Man, I'm still not getting any better at this drawing with this pencil thing. I'm really considering getting like an iPad and drawing on that. But basically, it was costing her $90 to onboard a client. Just to onboard them cost her $90, as well as 21 days of waiting, as well as 1.5 hours of work that her team was doing. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a long time. So before we can cut that down, let's first look at how can we standardize what this process looks like. So basically what we did is we went through all of her clients. And we looked at what were the papers that were being collected, what access points were being collected, what data was necessary for them to get access to so that they can begin their work. After having going through everything, and we went through, several dozen clients, I want to say we probably went through like 50 to 60 clients maybe, to find what were all the things that were the same instead of trying to find all the things that were different. After looking at all of them, what we found is that there were really only 3 variations. And the 3 variations were, we had a base client, we had a client then a huge component of their money was through COGS, retail, manufacturing, so on and so forth. And then we had then we had another client they had another client variation that was based upon commissions being paid out. That being after the money was collected, how was commissions divvied out across different team members and so on and so forth. Those were really the 3 variations of clients that they had. Their base client, their COG heavy, think like construction, think like HVAC, think like plumbing, and then they're commission heavy, think like insurance, think like mortgage lending to some degree, so on and so forth. That was kind of like their client variations. So I'm like, okay, cool. So we were able to simplify this into 3 lines of business. So there are 3 variations. God, this cracks me up every time. There are 3 variations of clients that they brought onto when they were doing this work. So I'm like, okay, cool. That gives me a pretty good idea. Now, when we think of these three variations, what impact does it actually have on the onboarding experience? So she thought, and she sat and she thought and she thought and she thought, and she's like, the only real difference is how many documents we have to collect and how many pieces of technology we have to be able to connect to. So I'm like, okay, so there's no substantial difference between the onboarding these clients. It's actually all the same onboarding process. And she's like, you're right. It is all the same onboarding process. I'm like, sick. So what that tells me is that one large bottleneck was the unnecessary friction of looking at each client as unique when they're actually all the same with three variations based upon the model of their business. So we solved a huge friction point, which was they're not all different, they're all unique. So what did we do? We actually built out, taking this information, we went then and built something that's called a client Gantt chart. Quick side note, talking about leverage. So every time I make a video, I go in and I make one adjustment into the standardized assets that I bring to you guys. So for example, like in this video, we see a color legend, traffic, lead sales delivery, manual action, automated action. In my last video, if you look here, I had not yet developed the arrows, but because I used different arrows in this example, I'm like, well, if I did it once, I'll probably do it again. So when you come down here, you'll now see that I actually have these arrows up here. And more than that, quick view look at this. These are all the different videos I've done to date. I've actually then started creating a bank or what of the tools that I am copying and pasting and using on a consistent basis. Because much like what I'm trying to help you understand is this is a bit of unnecessary friction. I mean, before I would have to take about 5 minutes to prep for a video by taking one of these, cleaning it up. 5 minutes is a lot, maybe like 3 minutes. I would have to take one of these, clean it up and move it down. But now what took me like 3 minutes now takes me like 30 seconds because I just grab all of this, copy paste, and boom, copy paste it here, which I'm just doing as an illustration. I'm obviously not going to use that. But anyways, I think it's one of the most meta things I love about what this entire concept of bottlenecks and eliminating them is like I am literally eliminating my own bottlenecks the more I do this process. Synchronicity, isn't it crazy? Anyways, let's go back to this concept of a client Gantt chart. So what we did was, I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy that, remove, wrong button, I'm going to drop it here. So what happens is after the sale was made, they would begin the delivery process. So the delivery process was they would do, after payments received, they would do an onboarding form. They would send the onboarding form via email. Let me just move this over here. I guess I should put actually confirmation page, which then went to a confirmation email. In that confirmation email was the onboarding form. And then what they would do is they would have a rep go and review onboarding form 2x per week. I guess I do twice per week. Then if they did that and the materials were not there, they would contact the client. Versus if they did it and the materials were there, they would move to stage one. I'm calling it stage one for simplicity reasons. So onboarding form goes here, review goes here, and this is if no access versus, why is it, that's weird. Well, like that. If yes access, they would move it this way, right? And this is a manual process, whereas this and this are both automated processes. And the onboarding form would be submitted and they would then be dropped here and then moved over appropriately. Okay, so here's the onboard. Here is their existing onboarding process. Now this is important because we can't fix this until we first fix the actual problem, which was the unnecessary friction because they were too custom on how they looked at projects. So what we did is we then went in and identified what are all of the stages of the work. So there was stage 1, there was stage 2, stage 3, stage 4A versus 4B. And this is to the variations of what they had. 4B versus 4C. and then they had stage 5. Now, I'm not using the actual names of this because I don't want to give away like anything proprietary or stuff like that. But again, the whole point of this is just to kind of illustrate the concept so you can see how we think through and then implement these systems and whatnots to eliminate the bottlenecks. So they had stage 1, 2, 3, 4, A, B, C based upon the variation up here. And then they had stage 5. So by first identifying all of these, what we did is we went in and we retrofitted the onboarding based upon the stage. So all we did was took the onboarding form and we said the onboarding form, oh, actually I'm gonna go right here and said do this. The onboarding form had routing logic. If they answered a question with one answer, it would route them through option 1. Versus if they answer a question with a different logic, it would route them to option 2. And if they hit them with the last one, it would route them through option 3. So what we did was we were actually able to break out. Man, why is it not? Let me just, hold on one sec. This is going to irritate me. Objects, connection line. Let's convert all of them to being that version. Okay. And then these are all automations, right? Because it's just automated routing. Option 3, based upon how they answered. And then after that was done, what it would do is when they submitted, I'm going to bring this closer so I can get as much space as possible. And I'm going to adjust it just so you can still read it. Then based upon this, what it would do is it would stick them onto different onboarding, like a confirmation page after onboarding, if you will. Confirmation on onboarding confirmation. Let's call it that. 1, 2, 3. This is all automated again. And then once they landed on this page, and this is where we made a huge change, is we changed the motion. So instead of the team member going to review the onboarding form and asking them for information, all of them routed to an onboarding call page. Now, by having the onboarding call page, we were able to remove this entire thing because all we had them do was in that call, we would have them set everything up at one time. So we were able to go from spending 21 days, which was 2 times a week of contacting, which each contact was 0.25 hours, which is 21 days of waiting and $90 in costs. We instead flipped it on its head. And what we were able to do is we got onboarding down to 7 days. And on that call, it became a 1 30-minute call. And they got the entire onboarding process done immediately. So let's think about that. They went from $90 to spending $30 for the exact same output. Right? $30 in costs for the team member who did the onboarding versus $90 of costs for the team member to do all the communications back and forth in order to get the client onboarding. So by simply making this one change, we were able to get a 3x return by simply the cost going from $90 to the cost going down to $30. That's all we did. We did nothing else fundamentally. Now, not only did we get that down, we were actually able to then cut by a third the amount of time it took to get a client onboarded. So clients are getting onboarded in 7 days versus in 21 days, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that is a huge impact on how the client perceives the value of the work. Because think about it. If you were to buy something right now, right? Like let's use an e-commerce example because people shop online on Amazon all the time. Imagine you bought something from Amazon right now, and it took 7 days for them to confirm they got your order and that they are now doing something about it. Versus when you buy right now, it'll instantly say, hey, we got your order. Here's the expected timeline of what to do next. It's a huge difference from a perception perspective. So if you think about it, if you spend that money on Amazon and they're able to deliver an immediate service, would that same concept not apply to your business? Imagine if someone bought and you were able to immediately get them onboarded, or more quickly, because immediately might not be feasible if you have to collect like paperwork or technology access or look at materials. Obviously that's not apples to apples, but the same concept is, if you could wait 21 days or 7 days to get what you wanted, which would you rather have? 7 days, no fucking shit. Obviously, you'd want 7 days because it's way faster and more in alignment. Same thing is true here. By being able to cut down the onboarding to be a third of the time, we were able to not only save money as a business, again, spending $90 versus $30, we were also able to get the client into momentum in a third of the time. Now, again, $60 doesn't seem like a lot, but imagine we're talking about scaling, right? Imagine you're trying to onboard the equivalent of 100x this number of clients, 10x the number of clients. If you're looking at spending $300 per week versus $900 per week, which would you rather have? 300 every single day of the week, because you're saving $600 over the course of a month. That's $2,400 over the course of a year. That is 48 grand. And then you add on more and more reps. Now you're saving this on one rep, $48,000 saved per year, versus imagine you have this across 5 reps. That's 200. Hold on. I messed up the math on that one. So we take 48 grand and we multiply that by 5. That's going to be $240,000 that you are saving every single year, simply by decreasing the amount of time and cost that goes into onboarding. Leverage. This is what we're talking about when we're talking about scaling, getting better, or rather keeping inputs the same but getting better outputs, or getting the same output for less inputs. So anyways, that was the onboarding piece of this. And then we have the every project was too custom when implementing by the team. So because we were able to standardize whether they were a 1, 2, 3 option based upon their business type, which then led to onboarding 1, 2, 3, we were able to take this entire process, which I'm gonna do some things to make it easy here. Because we were able to find the standardization of the entire delivery process, we were actually able to set it up so that every time a client went from one stage to the other, they would receive an automated message saying, hey, first name, we just completed stage 1. You're now moving on to stage 2. Expect these kinds of these communications or expectations from us before we continue. Be sent over. And then when stage 2 is done, same thing. Hey, first name, we just completed stage 2. We're now moving to stage 3. Here's what's going to be happening next, and so on and so forth. We were able to automate all of those things and all of those movements so that it was continuously happening and the client was getting an update all the time, which actually led to the clients being happier overall and actually resulted in them being more proactive in providing whatever materials this business needed throughout the process, because they're being communicated to more frequently, and they're with the expectations of, hey, here's what we completed versus here's what has to happen next, which only made them more bought in and understanding of, hey, here's what I have to proactively bring in order to keep this entire machine rolling. Now, one thing I should have done that I didn't do, and I'm kind of kicking myself about, is I didn't actually go and look at the math of how much more quickly we were able to get clients fully delivered, and I totally should have done that. But I think you understand where I'm going when I say that. The opportunity here is, if we can standardize the client Gantt chart, that is how much time goes into each stage and what's expected from the client and from the provider, your business, throughout this entire process, and then building in automated communications as you complete each one, we are then able to deliver a better client experience with, even without the math. What are some of the benefits? What are some of the benefits of a better client experience? You typically get a longer LTV. You typically have an increased likelihood of them buying the next product in a shorter time frame. You're typically able to collect a testimonial. You're typically able to get a higher NPS score. Higher NPS score then in turn allows you to make better decisions for how the business runs, so on and so forth. But those all becomes very tactical, very practical things as a result of standardizing what the client delivery looks like and the stages of that process, so that you can then not that you have to go right to the automating it, but even if every time you complete a stage, you can immediately tell the client, hey, we finished this. This is what we're going to be doing next. Here's what we need you to be available for. That only makes the entire process smoother and smoother and smoother, and over time results in more money, happier clients, better LTV, all of these things that are positive and directly contribute to scaling your business tomorrow. Again, the whole point of this is how can we find and identify the actual bottleneck that's stopping you from scaling your business tomorrow. With that being said, yeah, that's how we were able to take this bookkeeping firm and able to help them not only save money, but also save time and deliver on clients faster inside of the business. Now, with that being said, I would hope that you take this example and you can right size it into your own business, because that'd be the most ideal scenario. No one knows your business better than you do. If you can take the steps that we went through in this video to first look at all of your clients, find what is the same instead of what is different, and then identify based upon that what the variations are, and then based upon that identify what are the stages that you then can standardize across the entire delivery process, which then in turn allows you to rebuild your onboarding so that you're collecting the specific information that you need per sample or per client type, so that you're able to then be able to onboard faster. Then you're able to more quickly onboard because you're not having to guess and or manually create the process that then gets sent out. You can then change your onboarding motion, which all that together results in you being able to move faster and save money, right? That's the entire concept. I would hope that this video gives you insight into how you can do all of that by yourself. And if you can't, I would love to have a conversation about that. So down below, we have a link to schedule a growth call with me or one of the other advisors in my company. Very simple. Over 30 minutes, we go and we look at your business and we ask ourselves, what is the actual bottleneck stopping you from scaling tomorrow? Once we identify that bottleneck, we then look at, okay, what's the system that has to be built in order for this to be solved, and then what technology and automations need to be put in place so that we can have it happen more quickly, more leverage points, more leverage at different checkpoints to specify. We put it all together, we present that to you. Maybe we work together, maybe we don't. But if nothing else, you'll walk away with a clear understanding of what's the actual problem stopping your business from scaling tomorrow. And again, we'd love to help you with that. And if not, no problem. Figure it out. I would hope that this gives you some direction on how to do the conceptual swings to build that. And until then, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate your attention. It's the most valuable thing you can give me. And with that, I'll see you around the internet. Later.